did the Frank Ocean special,
Mm,
um, because I couldn't understand why Frank's music just hit everyone so deeply, and why it hit me so deeply, and why I felt all of these things, even though I didn't understand half of the things that he was talking about,
mm,
because he was singing about so much stuff, so much.
mm.
And it was the first time I realized that an album can be a concept piece.
It's as if you wanna die with me, as if we're going to die, as if you're gonna die with me, as if we're going to die.
Welcome, Bernie Van Tiel. Have I said your name right, or
Hello.
have I messed up
You
already?
have.
Great.
Nope.
Welcome, Bernie Van Tiel, on the Boroky podcast. Bernie is a lots of things. A beatboxer. You can tell me what order you'd prefer these in a sec. But a beatboxer, rapper, singer, music producer, dancer, actor, and general creative powerhouse. So I probably missed some other stuff. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. No particular order of preference. I just am a curious being that likes to get obsessed with creative stuff. So yeah.
Wow. Cool. Well, yeah, I guess I'd like to start by just asking you who you are. Who is? Do you prefer BVT or Bernie Van Tiel?
Look,
Who is Bernie?
I answer to both,
Okay.
so either one is fine.
Cool.
Who am I?
It's a pretty
Well,
broad question.
before I start, I just like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Gadigal people
Oh,
of the Eora Nation, on which I am speaking to you on today. And I want to pay my respects to the elders of past and present, and any emerging. I'm blessed to be on this land, to even have the opportunity to make and create amazing content like this. So yeah, is, was, and always will be First Nations land.
absolutely. Amen to that.
Yeah. Um, to the question, me, aside from all of those things, I'm also a queer person of color, and I stand very passionately about opening up spaces within the hip hop and R&B genre for queer folk, um, especially because we didn't get enough representation back in the day of like the golden era of like the early 2000s, where hip hop and R&B was so prevalent in mainstream,
Mm,
and like the love songs were so like high on the charts, but we never got, the pronouns or the recognition or anything like that in the songs. So yeah, I'm super passionate about creating that space for people, throughout my own presence and music and creativity. um, Aside from that, I'm a Sydney dweller, but originally a country gal
mm.
from Wollongbar, so a long way from home,
Where's
Northern
that?
Rivers type of thing.
No,
So
really.
it's like, if anyone knows the Tweed Heads area or the Northern Rivers area, it's like inland from that. So it's in New South Wales, rural New South Wales, but far north coast. So we're about 20 minutes from the Queensland border.
Yeah, right.
So if you put Gold Coast here, Byron here, well, Wollongbar's like in there somewhere.
I
Yeah.
gotcha. I reckon. Wow.
Who are you? What is
Oh,
your shtick?
that's actually a good question because this is the first time we've met,
Yeah.
which is which is very exciting for me. And actually, yeah, I want to before that just remark that I'm a little nervous and extra excited about this because it's the first time that that I've had someone on the Boroky podcast that that I would not have met who I would not have met without the podcast. It's like the
Mm,
podcast is starting to do some magic of like reaching into the world, and that's
that's
really exciting.
very
Um,
cool.
I guess I'm yeah a creative being too. I'm an artist living and working in Sydney, which is my particular area is Wongal area. and and
Mhm.
Sydney, I guess, is Gadigal land generally. Um,
Mhm.
and I'm a singer and songwriter and producer, so a lot of things we can overlap a little on. I'm I'm like an avid amateur dancer. Like I used to go to a lot of dance classes, and I recently
Love
made
it.
a video clip with me and my friends doing some choreography, so I can identify that way as well, I
Amazing.
reckon. Um, and 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 yeah, I paint and write poems and kind of like you. I generally try and make things, and the main way it comes out is music in some way. Um,
Brilliant.
hmm, and I'm from Canberra. That's where I grew up. Mm.
Ah, know a few Canberra folk.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's an interesting
Shout
place.
out to Aya Eves,
Oh
aka
yeah, yeah,
Vindalka.
she's
Yeah,
lovely. Yeah.
she's great. She's phenomenal.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm,
good
yeah.
friend.
Um, well, yeah, maybe I could ask you how you got here, something like that. How you, yeah, what your I guess, yeah, your journey has been discovering yourself creatively, something like that. How you found, yeah. I guess I'd love to hear a little bit about your childhood if you're willing to share,
Yeah.
or recent events, whatever pops into your head for how you
Um, Gosh,
wound up here.
born and raised in Murwillumbah. So when you're in a country town in the like mid to late 90s, early 2000s, there's not really much to do.
Mm,
Um, and there was a significant period of time as well where I didn't have a TV or any means of technology to really entertain myself from home. Um, and I'm just the type of person that needs constant stimulation. So I would get pretty uh, invested in things, and I was always making sounds and being a bit weird. So I guess music and beatboxing sort of made its way naturally into my dialogue and repertoire. But what really made the significant shift for me was when I was about 12 or something. My cousin came home with a CD and it had Razel on it, who's the godfather of noise. He pioneered like bringing beatboxing, I guess, into the mainstream and blowing people's minds with it.
wow,
Um, yeah, so I heard
I'm
the
not
CD
familiar.
and just instantly needed to copy everything he did off it, and eventually that developed into my own style. And then my mum noticed that I had a flair for instruments. If I just wanted to pick them up and I wanted to do things with them, so thankfully she came to me and asked me if I wanted to get guitar lessons one day,
Mm,
and I stuck with that for roughly 6 months to 8 months until we couldn't really afford it anymore. And I had to change schools and whatnot. So I was already obsessed with the guitar. But the thing about me is, if you give me the ultimately basic fundamentals of a thing, if I love it enough, I will go and explore it on my own and
mm,
develop my own thing about it. So I can put things into practice, but I'm horrible at the theory of it. So if you asked
mm,
me what chord I'm playing, I will have a limited knowledge on
mm, mm,
what
mm,
it is, or anything like that. Or if you ask me what key I'm in, I'll be like, dude, I don't know. I just know that I like to play it and do the things.
mm.
Yeah, and grew up as a pretty angsty teen, so songwriting and poetry made its way into my life, and thankfully, it exited the cringy stage of angst that I had and sort of like developed into something a little more procured and mature.
Mm.
I hope.
Yeah,
So
hindsight's 2020.
yeah, yeah, right. Ooh, um,
I'm the same. I've got like screamo, angsty
right,
music up the wazoo
exactly.
from my early years.
Yeah. Well, I was raised on I raised myself sort of on Eminem and
Mm,
DMX and like Evanescence, weirdly enough. Like there's just
mm.
such an
Great
eclectic
combination.
repertoire, yeah, of of music that I was exposed to growing up. Uh, and I just found that, I love having that eclectic taste in music. I don't really think that you should discriminate against any sort of genre. There's just a time and a place and a preference, and that's it.
Mm.
If it's not for you, then that's fine. But there's just brilliance and in all of it because someone created it at the end of the day, no matter how bizarre it is.
Mm.
So at some stage, the most iconic and revolutionary sounds were hated on. I mean, the Beatles were hated on, Ray Charles was hated on. They all thought that it either was nonsense or like quote unquote devil music or
Mm.
just had whatever the reason was, they just had a reason that they didn't like it, whether it was sonically or morally. And
Mm.
now it's just like, oh, look what we have today.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
fucking crazy. Yeah. So I don't know. I guess that's sort of where my journey has led me to be. And because I'm a human being that's just forever growing and changing, so's my music, so's the content that I put into my music. It's always going to forever grow and change and adapt to the moment that I'm in, I guess, or the things that are directly affecting me and my surroundings.
Mm.
Yeah,
That's
generically.
no, no, I mean, yeah, it's a very broad question. I think that's a good, like, broad sum up at the end with some great specifics that I wanna ask about. Because one of the things, yeah, that's really striking about you in terms of, like, your internet presence, having just done a bit of scrolling research, um, is your beatboxing excuse me, beatboxing coming into, like, into just, like, you'll film a video to tell everybody about your new single, and well done, by the way,
Mm,
on that. I'm forgetting the name of it, but I wrote it down. Where is it? Maybe you
it's
can
all
just
good.
tell me that.
Spend some time.
Spend some time. Yeah, that's a crazy
There's
I'd
more.
actually hmm? There's more?
There's more that's gonna be coming out. That's gonna be so that'll be like my debut, my old single in a minute.
That's
But yeah,
exciting.
more
That's really
coming.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, because that's an amazing tune that I'd actually heard just on the radio, before I knew who you were, and I was like, yeah, when
Oh,
I found out,
cool.
"Oh, I'm interviewing the person who wrote the song," like, "Wow, cool."
Yeah, right.
Um, yeah. Um, but before we get onto that too much, yeah, just the beatboxing seems such a part of your life, and it's such a like thrill, such a wake up when like you made a video, I think publicizing that, and you just open with like some crazy beatbox sounds, and it's like, oh, sorry, just bumped the mic, but it's so like startling and exciting to be like spun into a musical world that I didn't expect to be possible when someone's just standing there with their phone, kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
right,
that's
right.
just I think it's, yeah, I find it really remarkable and cool, your beatboxing stuff, and I've like watched some of your YouTube videos and that kind of thing.
Thanks.
Um, but yeah, I guess I'm not really asking a question, am I? Making statements that maybe you can bounce off about like there's something. Maybe it makes me envious even. Maybe I wanna get into this 'cause there's something so raw and powerful about being able to create music with just your mouth in a way that,
Mm.
like, it's different from singing. It's really special, and you're also capable. You make these bass notes with your throat that I just don't even. I don't know how to do that, and it's really, really, impressive and makes me a little jealous. So maybe you could talk about that.
Well, I mean, I feel quite similar towards singing as you do towards beatboxing. Just that raw essence of using just your voice to the- carry them through an emotion. Sometimes, like you can directly affect someone just by cadence and just through melody. It's bizarre,
Mm.
and it becomes less of a like. I think beatboxing, there's a danger of it becoming a bit of a commodity, in a sense.
What do you mean?
Eh, I think that um, beatboxing is amazing, and it's a powerful talent to have and a skill set, and it even bridges the gap between language. Sometimes singing is restricted to language, and so um, innately we're affected by the key that it's in, or the chords that we choose, or the melody that it goes through, which is its own way of bridging the gap between language, I guess. But with beatboxing, I think sometimes people aren't aware of where it is in the moment. I don't think people are aware of how big and how much it's evolved.
Mm.
And so there's just this danger of people, or this risk of people sort of seeing it as a commodity, as just this cheap gag, or this
Yeah, I see.
thing that's like, oh, I did that in high school and it
Mm.
kind of fizzled out for me, or da 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 da. But you just do
Mm.
this, right? And it's like, actually, no, it's become more complex, and it's become a sport. It's become a
Mhm.
way of life for people. It's become a community. So yeah, it's really interesting just seeing the different groups of people and how they react to the concept or the preconceived idea of what a beatboxer is, or what beatboxing itself is as an art form.
Yeah, I think yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. That the idea
Mm,
that people don't really have a box to put it in the same way they do. If you say you're a musician, they can conjure a picture even if they have nothing to do really with musicians.
mhm,
Um,
mhm, mhm.
Whereas if you say I'm a beatboxer, that yeah, the ideas that go along with that don't necessarily include like, you know, earning a living or that kind of thing.
They literally need to spend an hour on YouTube on the Swiss Beatbox channel,
Swiss
um,
beatbox.
or even just on Reaps One's channel. He apparently went to like a UN conference to as a representative
Wow,
of the beatbox community.
ambassador for beatbox.
Yeah, to sort of speak about beatboxing as a language and where it
Mm,
should enter into education and curriculums, and like it's actually phenomenal, and you should really, anyone who watches this or listens to this should really investigate that, because
mm,
it's more than just like making sounds and then getting applause for it. It's
mm.
actually, it's massive.
It's its own thing. Yeah, and it's so lots of things to say. I guess I remark on the fact that it is integrated in some way, the same way that like musicians would scat to each other to give each other
Mhm.
an idea of what the other musician might do, something like that. They'll just sing a
Yeah,
few notes or, um, and yeah, and so in studios and stuff, it's not uncommon to go like I can't beatbox for crap, but to go cut or something
I
to
mean,
illustrate a
essentially,
beat.
yeah, it's communication.
Yeah, yeah, and there are like I was listening to there's a pop singer called Charlie Puth, I don't or Puth.
Oh, love them,
Yeah, yeah,
love them.
yeah. We don't talk anymore. All those songs. Um,
Mm,
but he um he beatboxes on most of his tracks, and there's him beatboxing. It's low in the mix, but he beatboxes on an Ariana Grande track, an old one, just because the producer that he happened to be in the studio. The producer needed a certain frequency hit by the snare that he couldn't get,
that wasn't.
and then
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's just yeah.
He's got a great spit snare, actually. Shout out to Charlie Puth for
Mm,
the
mm. Yeah,
the
yeah.
dope
We'll
snare.
tag him just to see if he notices. Um, uh, where was it? Oh, and one more thing is my friend. I have another friend who, well, he used to be very into beatbox. Now it's kind of he's an experimental perfumer, which is a whole other box
Whoa!
that no one knows what to do with. um,
Right.
but he often sends me just voice memos of like ridiculous beats he's come up with that he's just producing with his
Oh,
mouth.
whoa.
Um,
Yeah, right.
and and I don't know what I was going to say other than that connects to you in some way because of the beatboxing. Um, yeah. Well, maybe I can ask you some stuff about now about this single, um, and
Mm,
about
okay,
and about what to expect or not if you've got other stuff you want to talk about.
sure. What would you like to know?
Well, I guess how'd it happen? What's maybe you can give a little description. Actually, you know what? Um, I'm trying to keep track of what I'm actually interested in versus what I feel like I should ask. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going to ask
Mhm.
something slightly different, which is how does your creative process go? How does I know a lot of people have totally different methods every time they make anything, but how did how do you make stuff? How does it all start?
Um, I feel like I'm consistently inconsistent with my creative process, because I have this mentality of now or not now.
What do
So
you
that allows for very like impulsive creative decisions.
what do you mean by
Um,
now or not now?
that's like my mentality. It's like I either do it now or I don't do it now. It's like it's now or not now. So, for example, if I get this urge to pick up the guitar and play it, but maybe my environment doesn't really have room for that because maybe I'm at a social function or something. I don't
Mm,
know. And
mm,
I should be talking to people. My brain will be
mm,
like, yeah, but now, 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 now. And if I don't do it, I won't be able to do it later when people are
mm.
gone or whatever. It's just like it's not now. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, I've occasionally
that
found
sort of,
myself scribbling at
yeah,
inappropriate moments, and yeah.
exactly. Or like when I used to when I used to work in hospitality when I was younger,
Mm.
I used to get in so much trouble for they would find napkins of things that like lyrics that I'd scribbled down
Hmm.
at the end during my shift, and they'd be like,
Mm.
"You can't do that," and I'm like, because it's very like now or not now behavior.
Yeah, yeah.
So that bleeds into my creative process. It's just like I can't force it for one.
Mm,
Whenever I've tried to force it, it's never really created anything of value to me or of any weight or depth.
mm,
Um, or I just don't really. It just doesn't feel authentic. And I think that just goes for like it's relatable for anyone, creative or not. If you force something, it doesn't feel authentic in the first
mm.
place.
Absolutely.
But on top of that, if I'm it'll either be moments of inspiration where I'm just like I get a hook in my head or I get a sound in my head and I go, oh, and then I produce it vocally, a bit like Timberland. Um, or I'll just feel like, I really feel like just like I get inspired by a song or something and I go, oh, you know what? I really want to just sit around and bash around on Logic for a minute and just play some stuff. And eventually I'll build a track. And then I go, oh, yeah, sick. I want to put lyrics over this now. Okay, awesome. Okay, I'll put the lyrics down and track a guide vocal. What ear candy things can I place in there? And then
Mm,
sometimes I'll send them if I really, really, really like it and I feel an attachment to it and I've got some faith in it. I share it with my co-producer Michael McGlynn, who you've interviewed,
yeah.
and he bless him. I love him so much. He's always backing me and always hyping me, and he's always honest. So
Mm,
if it's a bop, he's like, "Yep, let's jump on it and let's figure out what to do with it." And he's always ready to hear what my vision is. Or if he
mm,
feels like something's a bit off about it, or something's like not quite there, then he'll be honest and be like, look, from my musical perspective, I feel this way. But again, I respect your vision. If this is what you want, then go for it.
mm,
Um, and so I always just take things into consideration as to what I want and what I feel like works, etc., etc. So my creative process, and that's the same as my other mate, Naomi Bellet, who's just got phenomenal pitch and jazz chops for days.
wow.
um, Vocally, she's just beyond.
Mm,
And her emotional expression in her music is so inspiring. So, I often consult her when it comes to things from a very, very artistic point of view because she's quite about that. She just knows how to like pop her head into the clouds with me for a minute,
mm,
um, and just sort of not really regard theoretically what we're doing yet. We sort of like get our head in the clouds and then we like do all the experimental stuff and then like her theory brain kicks in and then she goes, okay, so this is what we've created and this is how we tone it down and make it um, sort of translate to people sonically.
mm.
Because I tend to get into these headspaces where I go super experimental and I completely just disregard how it should translate to people. So like for in layman's terms, I guess, like people go, okay, most basically, major chords are happy, minor chords are sad. Um, and then I might just take that concept and throw it out the window
Mm,
when I'm
mm,
creating something and just go, I just want it to sound like this. And this is how
mm,
it makes me happy and blah, 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 blah. And then later on, we'll take it and go, okay, but theoretically speaking, this is what would make people feel affected in this sort of way.
Mm,
and this is achievable usually through this approach.
mm.
Um, and a big influence for me on that is this podcast, Dissect,
Right.
um, hosted by Cole Kushner. And he goes through and he dissects critically acclaimed albums, and he delves into the artist and their life and how this album became this brilliant piece of art that everyone loves and adores. And he goes behind the hidden meanings of lyrics and chords and everything. And I found it fascinating to listen to when he did the Frank Ocean special,
Mm,
um, because I couldn't understand why Frank's music just hit everyone so deeply, and why it hit me so deeply, and why I felt all of these things, even though I didn't understand half of the things that he was talking about,
mm,
because he was singing about so much stuff, so much.
mm,
And it was the first time I realized that an album can be a concept piece, that you can have a journey from start to
mm,
finish, or that it can be on a loop, and that you have this intention, and then each song title and the running order of each song title is deliberately placed there to tell
mm,
you a story
mm.
and to transition you from one part of that chapter to another. Same as Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly.
That was me.
It's
I was about to say that. That's
oh
the album where I noticed that, and I found myself
yeah,
afterwards just on my kitchen floor, like sobbing and dribbling
yeah,
onto onto the ground. Just
yeah, it just does that to you. And so, like, this podcast that I listened to really helped me, just like, I would listen to it over and over again. It just helped me understand, like, how effective deliberate choices in music can be on your audience.
mm,
Sure, sing about how you feel. Sure, use the chord that really just feels right to you at the time. But when you put a producer into the mix and a musician that just knows their shit, you collide those two visions and you create a masterpiece. Like, it
mm,
just blows my mind. Like, even Frank Ocean's, like, Channel Orange will always be a timeless piece of art. But if you listen to Blonde, there's even just these sound clips that he makes as if it's a movie,
mm,
and it's as if he's running a credit sequence at the end, and he um, deliberately puts in, like, moments of silence at the ends of songs, or he cuts moments short deliberately, and at the end, and this blew my mind, at the end there's this sound clip of all these interviews going around, and then the last question of the album is, how far is a light year? And if you go through and you calculate the time measurements of the songs in the album, it gives you the direct answer to how far is a light
no
year.
way.
And when I
That's
heard that, I was like,
ridiculous.
no, no, no. Like,
Oh
fuck,
my
how can
god.
you have everything so intentional? And, like, even like, I think on Channel Orange, possibly there's, I think it's either in the song Pyramids or in the album itself, he has a direct halfway point where he transitions from one part of the song to the other, and it represents the apex, the peak of a pyramid. And it's just like, showing you one side of the story, transitioning to the other side of the story. And that was just like, and even just like the way it's produced, um, the melody, da, 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 da. If you put that in um, like a digital audio workspace, and you watch the MIDI components or the notes, notated out in front of you, they make patterns of pyramids.
Yeah, yeah,
So
of
it's just
course.
like, it's just things like that, deliberate choices that artists make or producers make, that just blow my mind, because it's like they care enough about it to give you things that you probably wouldn't even fucking notice,
Mm,
but
mm.
it
But
means
you
something to
feel
them.
them. I think you feel them.
Yeah,
I think when
yeah.
I yeah, yeah, when I really like music, it's usually or art generally, it's usually because there's a lot I don't understand. There's a lot that I
Mm,
all I feel is wonder. I'm just like, what is
Yeah,
going on?
yeah,
Mm, mm.
definitely.
And
I
there's
feel like oh,
you go.
yeah, no, sorry. I just feel like Jacob Collier's cracked that code on
Right.
his
Good. I didn't pick you for a Jacob Collier fan.
Oh, man, I'm a fan of
Mm,
a
mm,
lot of
mm,
artists, but Jacob Collier is just like I know a lot of people think he's pretentious and he's well, whatever, but I just honestly think he's in his own space and time, and he's
mm,
fallen in love with music,
mm,
and he's just cracked a lot of codes. He
mm.
just understands exactly how something should like the relationships between. Well, I could go on for days about it, and so could
No.
so many other people, but
Yeah, yeah. No, I
honestly,
agree. I'm a big fan.
we all know the alien that is
Yeah.
Jacob Collier.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think he's a good example, kinda like the other like Frank Ocean and Kendrick Lamar, of how there's conflict, I think, or there's a tension between the ideas, the sort of the creative force or something, where you're just
Mm,
getting things out and expressing, and that,
mhm.
like disciplining force or something of humbling yourself to communicate
Yeah,
with your audience. And it's
yeah.
a really hard balance to strike because, like, for example, Kendrick Lamar's "To Pimp a Butterfly" when it came out, or probably "Blonde" as well, actually. They were pretty experimental, like they're pretty on the edgy
Oh,
side,
yeah. Yeah.
um, but somehow they just speak to millions. There's
What a
yeah,
risk, hey, to pay off, like,
mm,
honestly, and, for both of them, because Kendrick, it was like, "Okay, this is my first official label album,
mm,
under a label, etcetera," but, um and Frank was like, "Okay, this is my supposed return to music,"
mm,
and such incredible risks taken by those artists, and then for them to just pay off like that is insane. But I guess if you have that level of authenticity, it doesn't matter. People love the risk you took, you
mm.
know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you put your finger on it with that level of authenticity. If it feels true, if it
Mm,
feels right, um,
mm,
yeah. But it's a hard game to play. And I think Jacob Collier doesn't like I'm just regularly stunned at how famous he is because it's weird music.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
really intense.
But he's like sneakily in the background as well, like producing some of the top artists' music. Like he did SZA's "Good Days," and
Really?
she's a prevalent alt R&B artist that's in the mainstream, and people love her. And
Mm,
she's like had collaborations with Doja Cat, who's
yeah,
another
right.
like massive commercial artist. And yeah, Jacob Collier's behind the scenes, like,
Wow. That
let me produce your
of
music.
dreams. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. You mentioned Doja Cat, which reminded me of your single, because you have
Ah,
like 3, or maybe more, but to me, it struck me as like 3 different personalities on that song. Like each section has like yeah,
it's
this whole
interesting that you noticed that. Yeah.
personality in the vocal, which I find stunning, and yeah, I'm really interested in that myself, I guess. But yeah, maybe you can talk about
I'm
that because
glad.
one of those
Yeah.
sounds is reminded me of Doja. I was like, "Is this?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, it's not."
Funny that you say that, because when I initially made the record, I was like, I wonder what it would sound like if Doja Cat and Billie Eilish did a collaboration
Mm,
and they produced a track together. And I was like, it'd probably sound a little bit like this. And um, yeah, I was just jumped on that. But it's kind of cool as well, like that you notice the different personalities in it, because the whole concept behind Spend Some Time was about um, many things, but it was about performative performative personalities in um, intimacy and physical encounters with people,
mm,
especially within the queer community,
yeah,
um, and just breaking through that preconception that we need to perform for each other to turn each other on, or to perform for each other to make others interested in us, which is something that I've dealt with and still deal with like throughout my waking life.
mm,
Even just like when I'm on stage, people often tell me, "Oh, there's Bernie and then there's BVT." and the two are completely different
Mm.
people. And I'm
Wow.
like, and I look at that and go, yeah, you're right. Um, but then there's also the idea of blurring the binary. So that became more prevalent in the music video, which is on YouTube,
Mm. Yeah.
um, which was like setting up people to expect that this was okay because it's a queer interaction, setting up the expectation that there's a masc and a femme.
Mm.
Um, and instead, blurring that idea and that concept. And it was also directed and shot by or set up. Well, it was all my whole entire team were queer folk,
Mm.
um, and my main consultant was a non-binary person who really obviously understood the concept of blurring the binary between masc, femme, and this gender spectrum that everyone's so obsessed with in and out of the queer community. And we wanted to achieve that visually as we did sonically. So visually, we used styling, so the clothes that we wore to convey that message, and then also the lighting keys and the perspex that separated us and then brought us together at the end. And the way that we had the choreography, just sort of like how we danced for each other and that sort of thing was um, basically trying to convey that message. And then sonically, uh, I wanted to introduce and bring forward the idea of like this masculine trope that we often hear in rap music, um, and delivering that on the vocals in the verses, both lyrically and tonally. And then when we brought it into the chorus, it was just this very like floaty, um, luminescent sort of thing. But it also just kind of like started to pose the question to the other person of like, why are you performing for me? I'm already here. I'm already yours. You don't have to do anything more than what you are.
Mm.
Um, and then I blurred them together towards the end, um, which brought them together and kind of followed the idea of like this is like probably TMI, but I don't care. Like
Go
the
for it.
idea of what an orgasm should be, but
Mm.
for male and female people. Um, so like the guitar solo at the end sort of represented the quote unquote male orgasm, which just like
Mm.
goes on this journey and it peaks, and then it's like, there you go. And then the whole entire song itself is just goes through the ebbs and flows of a quote unquote female orgasm, which is like supposedly something that you go through and you push and pull through and um yeah, you don't really go through like it's not a graph,
Mm. Mm.
that just ascends. It's this like chart that flows and everything. So,
Mm.
and I wanted to blow them together because I wanted to break the idea and the concept that things are just one solid aspect and that's it. Like I think
Mm.
that everyone has a different experience.
Mm.
And I think that there are also people who identify in different genders and sexualities, and you can't like dictate their experience for them.
Mm.
They're here to tell you how it is for themselves. And so I just really wanted to like throw recognition to that, even if people didn't hear it or understand it and they just go, oh yeah, this is a bop,
Mm.
or oh yeah, this film clip's kind of cool.
Mm.
I just I wanted to do it just for myself and anyone else that would eventually recognize that for
Mm.
sure.
Totally.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. And I I reckon music 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 as a concept almost contains some of that message kind of inherently, the way that there are there are always moving, yeah, I guess moving parts and like and multiple levels of profundity all kind of coexisting and often like
Mm,
swapping places and blurring the boundaries between each other.
entirely.
Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I think that lends itself to the concept really, really well.
Yeah.
And I think it's why I suspect it's why a lot of people like music, is like it's the one place, especially if you got like, if you're the kind of person who likes boxes, who's got their world kind of figured out. It's like, yes, I know
Mm.
everything. Sweet. Um, oh, I envy them. Uh, but yeah, if you've got that, and then you experience music, it kind of just maybe like softens the boundaries between all the boxes. It reminds you that things um,
Yeah,
aren't little
definitely.
um, categories only.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah,
mm,
definitely. I feel that completely, and I think that's why it's such a powerful, art form. I think that
mm,
it's the same as dance. When you see a dancer, you can go, "Yeah, yeah, sure." Um, they're a technically amazing, dancer. All of their lines are perfect. All of their, turnouts are perfect. Or every execution is perfect. But
mm,
if there's no intention or emotion or something
mm,
behind it, then you miss the story.
mm.
Um,
Have you seen
and I
Black
think that's
Swan?
why dance is so effective, right? Pretty much. Yeah,
Just
no,
yeah,
I
there's that
just,
the relaxed, or the dancer who clearly
yeah,
enjoys it, who turns out to maybe be a sociopath. It's hard to tell.
yeah,
Um, but she's pointed out by the director who yeah,
yeah,
who claims that the main character is is perfect in many ways, but doesn't have
yeah,
that fire, that soul.
yeah. Well, um,
Sorry,
I
I
think
interrupted.
about, no, no, it's all good. Think about what my friend Naomi says, that's always stuck with me
Mm,
forever. And she says, I don't care. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but she says, I don't care if you're the most amazing technical, um, actor or musician or dancer or whatever. If you can move your hand and make me cry, then I'm there.
mm,
And I think about that so much. It's such a
mm,
simple movement, but if you have so much intention behind it, or you've just mastered that thing,
mm,
that will move thousands, millions, even, you know,
mm,
just from that one thing. It's not about showing off everything that you've got. It's just about, you know, doing that thing and affecting someone. And
mm,
I always think of that. I carry that with me every day,
mm,
because it stops you from limiting yourself in what your expression needs to be.
mm.
There's
Yeah,
no
in an
box
unusual
to be in.
direction, because like yeah, you might limit yourself the other way. Like you might need to cut down on being absolutely wild, but it's not often you think about yeah, making sure that you know you could be that simple,
Yeah,
that
it's just
that minimal.
communication.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a similar experience with a dancer called Jackie Trapp, who I think she, I could be wrong, but shout out to her anyway. She was in the dance. I don't know if she actually choreographed it, but there was a dance. I think it was four dancers just standing there while the music played,
Mm,
and that's literally. I think they changed directions four times, and that was like the whole work,
mhm,
and it
mm.
fucked me up. I was like, yeah, so moved by this work because just the way they
Wow.
stood was there was something about it. There was yeah, and
Yeah,
especially
right.
her, I would say, yeah,
Phenomenal.
you can stand. That dancer can stand. Damn.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, cool.
yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, brilliant.
Well, we're sort of coming up on the hour. I think we've done about 40, 50 minutes. Are there things that jump to your mind that you would like to say that you haven't said yet, or things you'd like to talk about?
Sure, yeah. For anyone who's watching or listening, um, I'd love, love, love if you could, keep up with my stuff. Best way to do that possible is usually Instagram. My handle is at bossdembvt. So boss DEM BVT.
I'll put links at the bottom.
Yeah,
Okay.
beautiful. Basically, I've I put up all my gigs there. I put up my videos so you can see the things that we've been talking about uh, on here, and also it's where I'll be promoting my new single that I'm working on at the moment, and some cheeky drops that might come your way as well. Because of that now or not now mentality that I
Hmm.
have, sometimes I'll be planning something meticulously and I'll have that set for a very specific date, but
Hmm.
sometimes I'll just have something and I go, I'll do it, and I'll put it out
Mm.
there and it's done. So
Heck yes.
with like no, I sometimes I'm just like, oh, I know I should be contacting blog spots right now, but fuck it. So
Fair enough.
yeah,
Me too.
just I just enjoy doing what I want to do. So if anyone wants to keep up with me, that's the best place possible. I have a new single that's going to be coming out soon. Keep your eyes out open
Is there a
for it.
name?
It's called Shorty.
Shorty.
Um, Shorty, and it's a very big throwback to like early 2000s hip hop R&B style
Mm.
with a modern twist. And it's got that like Doja style of rap and singing combination.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and it's just for all the queer little kids that never felt represented back in the day. And this music is so timeless, and this genre is so timeless. Yet
Mm.
we didn't get to age with it. So I'm doing that for myself, little me, and for everyone else who loved that music but didn't
Mm.
feel seen in it.
Little you is
Um,
very important.
yeah,
Take care of little
absolutely.
you.
And so Shorty is going to be like the I guess the Kickstarter of all of that, the instigator. Um,
Cool.
yeah, so please do. And I've got gigs coming up. I'm playing at Torchfest at the Factory Theatre in Marrickville in
Wow.
July. And in June, I'll be doing the APRA AMCOS and Mardi Gras showcase for queer emerging artists. And Alex the Astronaut is going to be headlining that one.
Huge.
Um, and the host is Faustine Fuzz from, I think it was Video Hits back in the day.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so tickets are available. Link is in my bio. Wow, surprise.
I'll put it in the bottom of the
Yeah.
YouTube thing as well, maybe.
So yeah, jump onto that because I would love to have some familiar faces and some new faces showing up to my gigs.
Awesome. I know I will.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I wanted to ask actually, what does a live gig look like? Because I've all I've seen is
Ooh,
beatbox videos of you live.
right. So
Or do you want to keep it a secret?
oh, look, let's get people excited.
Yeah.
I do incorporate a lot of beatboxing into my live performances just because it really amps up the crowd, and
Mm.
I love interacting and engaging with the crowd through that. I
Mm.
have a loop station that I use. It's like as powerful as a DJ deck, if not more. Um, and I utilize that to build tracks on the go and rap over the top of them. But I also have my um, actual songs and music that I incorporate into my set list as well. So I have like my instrumentals and everything that
Mm.
I rap over and sing over as well, just so that I can move away from being stationary and get out into the audience and talk to people and utilize my space a bit more.
Mm.
So
I think that's really
um,
important.
expect dynamics, expect energy, expect communication, expect me to call you out in the crowd if like
Uh,
you are heckling me because I love that banter and I will chat to you. Um, and I find it a lot of like really fun. I genuinely find it so fun.
mm.
So yeah, uh, you can expect a lot, and then you can probably expect some new stuff if I like you guys enough and you've turned up, maybe. Yeah,
Amazing. Amazing teaser.
yeah,
I've got one more question, if that's okay.
yes,
I wanted to
yes.
know who you would like to see on the Boroky podcast, if you could see anyone.
Mm, um, I would ask you to communicate with Naomi Bellet.
Mhm.
Uh, she's the friend that I mentioned who's just got phenomenal jazz chops, and she's an actor. So she's a thespian and philosopher. Also, I think the tribe, who are my boys from the Beatbox community,
Right.
um, they're great. I don't know how that podcast would go because there's 4 of them, and I swear all
That'd
of
be a
them
bit
have
wild.
ADHD. So it's it's
Might
gonna
build
be a
up to
lot.
that one.
Yeah. But they're brilliant, and they've got quite a few shows coming up that they probably want to plug. So I'd contact them as well. Um, yeah,
Perfect.
and they'll probably give you some other people to chat to as well in the music world. But yeah, brilliant people, brilliant,
Great
brilliant people.
suggestions. I'm excited. Well, thank
Happy
you.
to.
Oh, yeah, I'm still getting used to not interrupting. One day I'll master
Oh no, honestly,
it.
I think it's also like the lag as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for coming on the Boroky podcast. Bernie Van Tiel, BVT, you're amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. It's I love it. I love chatting.
Well, if you wanna smile with me, if you want me to smile, hell, I'm gonna smile with you, as if we're going to die, as if I'm gonna die with you, as if we're going to die, as if you're gonna die with me.